that's what I did.
In regards to the hiring part, and this I found interesting, and you mentioned it, you're a left brain guy, but we had an opportunity to talk, and you said, I have a certain amount of criteria. And you sit down and you basically fill 4, 5, maybe 6, maybe more pages of legal pad, and these criteria are something, you walk with those legal pads to whomever you're going to speak. And you kind of have a grade situation on that. And again, maybe that's left brain, but also in your gut, in your heart, you have a feeling about the qualified candidate's interest in the job and what you think they can provide. And you make, again, as CEO, athletic director, the best decision because you're charged with that decision. Talk to me about that process.
Well, I created a template that had 14 criteria across the top, and they weren't all equally weighted because I believe in kind of generational leadership. We had some significant weaknesses that had evolved in the previous 3 years, and I wanted to make sure we brought in somebody that really addressed those weaknesses. So I weighted some of those criteria a little higher than I would others. I think that's normal. And every interview I did, I had this template in front of me, and I fundamentally would score out each candidate. And so they were scored out on 14 things. It was all weighted, and there's always an intangible. You all know that. You hire people, but I have to tell you, there was a lot of data and a lot of, hard assessment that took place as part of this process. And yeah, I had people chirping out there, hire this guy. And 99.99% of the time, the people who were chirping for me to hire this guy had never met that guy, had never been in the same room with that guy, had never engaged that guy in conversation. They thought they knew that guy because they'd seen him on TV or they'd seen him in a media interview. And so they thought they knew what this guy was all about. Well, I got to find out what these guys were all about. And I got to grade them out. And I got to look at how well were they prepared and positioned to come in and fill the needs that the University of Michigan had at that point in time in the history of our football program. And I just want you to know, when I got done, I intended to spend 2.5 hours with Brady Hoke. I ended up spending over 4 hours with Brady Hoke. And I got to the end, and I went through and I added up the far right-hand column to get his score, and I added it up twice more because I thought I was making an addition error. The score was so high. It was like, wait a minute. And then I went through and then I studied it, and it became very clear to me. It became very clear to me why Brady Hoke was perfectly positioned to come in and take this program where it needed to go and do it in the way that Michigan people expect it to happen.
Nostradamus. Nostradamus is your last category, Mr. Brandon.
Go with it. I'm just so impressed you can pronounce it. I knew Jim when he was a student athlete here.
He can get away with this stuff, see, because
right.
he knows. He's got some goods on me that I don't want to get out there. When you're 18, 19 years old, you do things that
Did you ever?
Now I don't want to sound like the pot calling the kettle black, but you weren't exactly Mother Teresa either, okay?
My wife is in the front row.
That's why I cleaned
don't see your wife here.
That's why I cleaned that up.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Nostradamus for 500, Dave.
Okay.
Look into your crystal ball and tell us, are collegiate athletics going to a mega conference where 60 to 80 universities compete in football and basketball in one conference? And it's a big, huge TV contract. And basically in 10 years, 15 years from now, what we know as the Big Ten Conference, the Pac-10, Southeast, Big 12, just basically are going to amalgamate into one deal, and you're going to get a football and basketball playoff. And the rest of the sports kind of are folded back into the university as individual sports, and that becomes your conference type competition?
I believe if, I believe if the NCAA, and I don't want to talk about them like they're a third person, that's a member organization and we're one of the members. Okay, we often talk to them like there's some beast out there that we can't control. They are us. if the university presidents, who are the ones who kind of are on the board and drive that organization and hire the president, if they get together with our new president and they go through a massive reform process, which is really being advocated by the new president, and they get their act together, and they bring the kind of discipline and reform to the business of college athletics that's required, I don't think it pushes conferences or schools in the direction of a mega conference. I don't think you have conferences or schools that split off to do their own thing. I believe if it continues to be, to a large degree, dysfunctional, and it creates more of these kind of chaotic situations where there's all these inequities and imbalances, then I think it almost promotes that kind of radical change in the future. And I hope it doesn't happen, but I think that's how I would assess the possibilities.
With Texas A&M recently saying we're going to the Southeast Conference, and with Nebraska joining the Big Ten, with the Big Ten having to come out with an announcement from the league office that no, we don't plan on any further expansion.
At this time.
At this time. But that's what I mean. Is the Big Ten Conference going to become a 16-team league?
Two different issues. One is this idea, this notion of a mega conference that kind of splits off and does its own thing and forms its own rules. That's one scenario. The other scenario is, or the other question may be, do you think there's going to be further consolidation within conferences nationally? And yes, I do. I do. I think there are conferences out there that are still at risk in terms of being able to hold together their membership. And as those schools decide to splinter off and go in other directions, it's going to create kind of what we saw the last time, and that is certain schools are going to be looking for homes and certain conferences are going to be interested in entertaining new membership.
David, based on your performance today on Jeopardy, you have won, and you are allowed now to come back next week if you choose to do so. Or you can take your parting gifts and get the hell out.
That would be my preference.
That would include a home. That would include a home version of Jim Brandstatter's Jeopardy, which I know you'd like to market and sell for me through the university, wouldn't you?
If there's anything I don't want, it's you in my home.
I saw Jan over there nodding. That's correct, Dave. Good job. That was disappointing. Now, we have an opportunity for all of you to ask Dave some questions. So there are microphones. They're going to be out there. There's one over there and one over there, so raise your hand, and you can ask Dave a question if you want to regarding the University of Michigan and its athletic department. Yes, sir, right here.
Thank you. Dave, talk a little bit about your investment strategy relative to the sports. You got 29 some sports. I imagine the revenue drawing ones probably get a different attention and a different strategy than the others. But how do you work with the competing investment needs that you have with those sports?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't take the position, and nor should we ever take the position, that the athletes that compete in our sports that generate more significant revenue are more important, or those sports are more important from an investment standpoint. The young people who come here to play in any sport, to them